Put that coffee down.
I'm not here to waste your time, okay? I certainly hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm gonna keep this short.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
Coffee's for closers only.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Behind Your Back podcast with me, Bradley Hartman, founder and CEO of the Behind Your Back Sales Company, where our mission is to help you sell more, faster, at higher margins, and have more fun doing it. Now, how do we do that? We do that in three basic ways. We do a lot of speaking and a lot of training. I got keynotes booked out into 2023, which is exciting. Time flies. We do lots of training, half-day workshops, full-day workshops, multi-day workshops for your team that we customize just for you. We also do a lot of consulting, 12 to 18-month collaborations where we focus on very specific things to improve your sales performance, generally through changing some different aspects of your sales culture and introducing new tools into your sales process. And we love our monthly coaching. We have an executive coaching where we work directly with owners and VPs of sales to help them prioritize, focus their own time, to hold their teams more accountable. And every month we connect with outside sales reps, review pipelines, help them minimize distractions, focus on their own time management, and crush their monthly sales quotas every single month. Now we customize and we can combine these in different ways to help you and your team, whether it's virtual, in person, or some combination, to meet your budget. But enough about me. Let's talk about the show today, which I was thrilled to record and had so much fun doing it, where we have sales extraordinaire. He's coming back to the program, Mr. Matt Potter, to talk about the greatest sales movie of all time, Glengarry Glen Ross. So who is Matt Potter? Well, Matt Potter is a sales extraordinaire, one of the most naturally gifted sales professionals that I know. Boots on the ground, he trains people, and he sells every single day for a living. And I know you already have found value, more than likely, if you've been listening for a while, because back in January of 2021, we released my conversation with Matt Potter as we broke down the key selling scenes from the classic film Tommy Boy. And despite its length, it was long, it was longer than an hour. It was our most downloaded episode in 2021. So we had wonderful feedback from this, and you can imagine why. Tommy Boy is hilarious. So we play those clips and we talk about them. Again, that is episode 173, titled Tommy Boy, a cinematic sales analysis with Matt Potter. So we had a lot of fun doing it. I would strongly recommend you listen to the episode and then go watch the movie. It's a ton of fun. Again, we had rave reviews from that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because Matt's a super bright guy, which is why we brought him back to talk about Glengarry Glen Ross, which is my favorite sales movie of all time. And I'm generally appalled and shocked and annoyed, which is why we're doing this. When I'm shocked, appalled, and annoyed, it results in an episode, and we're going to dig into it, where I will routinely ask clients and workshops and even keynotes, and we'll ask several hundred or over 1,000 sales professionals in the room, and I'll say, how many of you have watched Glengarry Glen Ross? And I would say in general, it's somewhere between 10 and 15% have seen it, which means an amazingly large number of people have never watched it. And I'm a big fan of merging different ideas and activities that will allow me to think better and become a better sales professional, i.e. watching a movie that I can enjoy, but then think about what are they saying? What are they doing in a way that can help me either coach other people or, more selfishly, help myself be better at what I do. So when we have these two activities we love to do, sell in my job, hopefully you do love that, and then watch movies, why would we not combine these to help everyone? It blows my mind. Anyway, so that's what we're doing here. So Glengarry Glen Ross came out in 1992 and has one of the greatest casts of any movie I've ever watched. Let me run this down for you. Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Kevin Spacey, Ed Harris, Alan Arkin, Alec Baldwin, all right, and a guy whose face you will absolutely know, but a name you'll probably forget. It's Jonathan Pryce. This is just an all-star lineup. Now, I know some of these characters who I just mentioned, actually humans, but they are characters. Alec Baldwin, Kevin Spacey. Yeah, their name right now in general pop culture has some baggage with it, probably rightly deserved all across the board. Nonetheless, this is an incredible movie. Now, I should warn you, there is a ton of profanity. So we have learned over the years that while we love all our audience members, that there are many of you within our community, construction folks. We often swear a lot. Many of you listeners, you do not like the profane. And I get it. That's cool. Eliminate that from your vocabulary. But I will say, if you're going to watch this, just expect the language itself is pretty vulgar. There's lots of F-bombs and they come fast and frequent. Why? Well, the guy who wrote the play that became the movie, and he wrote the screenplay here, is a guy named David Mamet. He is from Chicago, and this is how, at least the salespeople that he knows, this is how they speak. Now, I'm a huge fan of David Mamet in general. I would strongly encourage you to check out anything that he's written. He's written a number of books, many of them on movies that I've thoroughly enjoyed. He wrote one from Bambi to Godzilla, which I think is hilarious. I've reread that multiple times, but he wrote the play for Glengarry Glen Ross. Now, where does that name come from? Well, the sales professionals in this film, they're selling real estate. We do not know exactly how valuable it is, but they are selling real estate for the Glengarry Highlands and the Glen Ross farms. So that's where the name Glengarry Glen Ross comes from. Now, if you enjoy this, if you are a follower of sales and you love sales and you don't mind reading a curse word here or there, I would strongly encourage you to go spend, I think it's like $10. You can buy the actual screenplay in book form for Glengarry Glen Ross. And it's like 100 pages. And it's a super fast read. But if you see my copy, it is highlighted. There's notes all over. It's kind of cool if you buy the screenplay and then you watch the movie and you can see how different these are from the original play version that was on Broadway and the one that became in the movie. And you will notice immediately there's a classic scene. It's about 8 minutes. We reference it, but we're going to do an entire episode on the Alec Baldwin speech. That does not exist in the play. That was added after, and you can imagine it was an absolutely fantastic addition. Now, if you haven't heard of any of this, go immediately watch Glengarry Glen Ross. Watch the film. Watch it this weekend. You're going to enjoy it. It's an hour and a half. It goes by really quick. And if you don't know the Alec Baldwin full scene that I'm referring to, it's about 8 minutes long, and you will hear many cliches that come from it, including A, B, C, A, always, B, B, C, closing, always be closing, always be closing, which I actually don't agree with. You don't always want to close. You want to find out what the next commitment they need to make is and make sure that's very clearly articulated and force them to opt into that. But nonetheless, Glengarry Glen Ross is an incredible movie. I want you to watch it. We are actually in the process, and actually, if you are interested, you can email me. We are currently developing, on the behalf of a couple customers, an 18-month outside sales rep development program that's going to be online and off that will largely geared towards taking inside sales professionals over 18 months, kind of like almost like a master's class, if you will, that is both online and off. There'll be reading, there are courses, there's going to be a cohort that goes in here, but we are going to make some of these things mandatory. And watching Glengarry Glen Ross and breaking that down and understanding the sales principles or violations in this movie are certainly going to be part of it. So if you are at all curious about our 18-month outside sales rep development program, feel free to email me directly at bradley@behindyourbacksales.com, and I can let you know how that's going and what options we might have as we build this out for deployment later here in 2022. So without further ado, long intro, I know. You, my friend, are going to enjoy this. Also, we recorded this as video, so we are going to release on YouTube segments of this with Matt and I talking about Glengarry Glen Ross and show you the clips. You, my friend, you're in for a treat. Please enjoy my conversation with Mr. Matt Potter talking about Glengarry Glen Ross. Mr. Matt Potter, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So the last episode we did together was a sales analysis of the sales film, one of the greatest of all time, Tommy Boy. And internally on our team, there's a lot of discussion because we went deep. And we went like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And we, over and over, we said, any of these long episodes nobody listens to, false. You brought your A game.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie. That was our most downloaded episode over the last 12 months.
And
liked
by David Spade.
He did. So we pinged David Spade on Instagram, and he liked us back, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're on the radar. So Matt, we wanted to do another sales movie, break it down scene by scene. Why did you choose Glengarry Glen Ross?
Well, let's get something straight. We choose Wolf of Wall Street.
That's right.
But since somebody was coming in from Minnesota, they got to grab it, correct?
This is correct. You got bumped. You know why? It was a
I
compliment.
got bumped.
It was a compliment because we knew we could give you any sales movie that you could handle.
We could try.
With confidence.
It's 10 a.m. in the morning on a Friday, and I had to drive 45 minutes down here through traffic, so we'll try and make the best of it. But no, I think it's still relevant. I think it still plays well. There's a lot of good lessons in it. So yeah, it's definitely one of the better sales movies out there, I think.
All right, we're going to lead off with the opening clip.
Yeah.
We got Jack Lemmon, Shelley the Machine Levine, kind of an aging sales guy who used to be the top sales guy, really struggling right now. And Ed Harris's character, who he's quite the character, right? He kind of really drives the plot along.
Right.
I'm not going to give too much away here. So let's start with the opening scene here where they're working the actual phone booths to set up meetings at 10 o'clock at night. Let's roll that clip.
Could I speak to Dr. Lewenstein, please? Well, it's rather important. Would you get it for me?
What's trying to make a living on these deadbeat leads? I swear to God, Shell, I'm on a sit today. Hello, Mrs. Swoboda. This is Dave Moss. Yeah, we spoke yesterday. Now, on the Rio Rancho estates, we've had a situation just come up. The president of our company is in town just one day, and he has certain parcels.
Doctor.
Yes.
Well, could you get... What do you mean? He's not there. I have to speak to him. Yes, it is fairly urgent. Mr. Levine.
Yeah.
No, I can't be reached. I'll get back to him.
That he has certain parcels, certain choice parcels, which he's given me a hold on for the next 48 hours. Now, what would be the best time to get you and your husband together? Say tonight at 10? Or tomorrow at 8? Okay. Okay, well, what would be the best time to do that? Look, you send in the... No, listen to me now. I've got 48 hours to make you a lot of money. Well, when will he be on? Fine, I'll call you back in 10 minutes.
So Matt, what stands out from that clip as we get this movie started?
Stands out from that clip. They are in the basement of a Chinese restaurant.
Right.
They are in phone booths, which my kids probably have no idea what a phone booth is.
Don't you have a phone booth in your house?
I do have a phone booth in my house. Totally forgot about that.
Totally. Don't sidetrack.
But they're sitting there trying to make sales calls.
Right.
At, I would assume it's 7 o'clock because the meeting's going off at 7:30.
Right.
And Ed Harris is literally calling a family at 7 o'clock at night, asking what time works for you.
Yeah.
Can we do 10 o'clock tonight? You and your husband. Who's letting people in at 10 o'clock at night to talk about properties in Rio Rancho?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
And then he goes, how about 8 o'clock tomorrow?
Right.
And the lady's like, call me back in 10. Totally blows him off. He hangs up the phone, starts screaming about the leads. The leads are crap. Can't do this. It's garbage. He walks into the bathroom. His sales manager, office manager walks in and he starts railing on him about the leads. And then it kind of sets up the whole rest of the movie, right?
Yep.
So great cast, great characters. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing that I really enjoy from that clip is you see what a true sales professional who obviously doesn't have the internet, doesn't have a smartphone. I think those have, for many salespeople, has allowed us to become lazy when we schedule calls. And you see Ed Harris say, when's your husband going to be home? In 10 minutes? And he's like, fine, I'll call back in 10 minutes.
Right.
And as we think about commitments, and when I think about sales, it's what commitment do I need next? And this is very specific. And he says, all right, the next commitment I need is I just need to get the husband and wife together on the phone at the same time.
Right.
That's what I need. That's the next commitment. When's that going to happen? 10 minutes, fine, I'll call back in 10 minutes. And too often I see sales pros somebody say, oh yeah, no, Matt, yeah, happy to meet with you. Yeah, just call me next week. And they're like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I'll say, stop. You're busy. I'm busy. Get the next commitment. Get it on the calendar. Why do you think so many people fall into that trap of just call me whenever you can next week, or give me a call next month? And we're like, okay.
Fall in the trap of letting that happen because
Right.
it's easy. It's being lazy. It's just being like, okay, not wanting to push the ball forward, not being aggressive enough. Like we talk all the time about the next generation, the guys coming in, the text messages, the emails.
Yeah.
It's very easy for them just to be like, whenever it's good for you, they don't want to like push it forward, have maybe that tough conversation. So yeah, I think it's mainly being lazy, not being aggressive.
So this is, I think, is a good segue too into this next clip. I would say one of the most iconic scenes in cinema, certainly in sales, with Alec Baldwin, right?
Sure.
And he talks about ABC, always be closing. Yeah. And I like kind of the contrast as you think about, you got Ed Harris who's saying the next commitment for him to close isn't to close the deal, it's to not sign on the line, which is dotted. It's literally just to have that next thing. And I'm always talking about for the folks that we're coaching is what's the next immediate step? And don't try to close, right? Unless when you think of closing, it's, I just need to get the economic buyer, I need the husband and wife together to talk about potentially buying Rio Rancho property.
I think you're always closing, right? You're always trying to get to that end game.
Right.
So you are always trying to close, but you're trying to hit, like, I mean, consider the wife, the gatekeeper, right? Now, there's women out there that will probably come after me for saying that. Because
we're talking about the movie,
not
about the
movie.
gender, right?
But I mean, she was on the phone. She's obviously not the decision maker. She's like waiting for my husband to come home. It's like calling and getting a receptionist if you can do that anymore.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's not in. And he's sitting in the back office somewhere.
Right.
Working. So it's kind of the same thing, right? You just always got to be, again, moving the ball forward.
Yes.
Closing the deal.
Yeah. And I think of what is closing for this. What's the next immediate step that, again, to your point, kind of forward progress? How do you keep moving that forward? And what are those commitments to move? So let's transition into Alec Baldwin comes in, sales managers there to theoretically motivate, inspire, and to challenge, among other things. And obviously, it is the intro for our podcast. Right?
It gives me PTSD, literally.
Really?
Oh, literally. We used to have these calls once a month. And I think I said it before on the other podcast. We would sit there and we would sit around a table and you'd be like, look to your left, look to your right. One of you is not going to be here when this is over. And we were like, okay. I mean, and they would show this clip constantly. So I know this clip
really
by heart. So when I was watching this again for us, I watched like a clip from Boiler Room.
Yeah.
And it was Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yes.
He did pretty much the same speech, but did not do it justice. Like Alec Baldwin murders in this.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. All right, let's run that clip now.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only. You think I'm with you? I am not with you. I'm here from downtown. I'm here from Mitch and Murray. And I'm here on a mission of mercy. Your name's Levine? Yeah. You call yourself a salesman, you I don't gotta listen to the You certainly don't, pal. Because the good news is you're fired. The bad news is you've got just 1 week to regain your job, starting with tonight. Starting with tonight's sit. Oh, have I got your attention now? Good. Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired. You get the picture? You laughing now? You got leads. Mitch and Murray paid good money. Get their names to sell them. You can't close the leads you're given. You can't close You are hit the bricks, pal, and beat it, because you are going out.
The leads are weak.
The leads are weak. Leads are weak. You're weak. I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
That's my name. You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name. And your name is you're wanting. And you can't play in the man's game. You can't close them. Then go home and tell your wife your troubles. Because only one thing counts in this life. Get them to sign on the line which is dotted. You hear me, you? A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
So, Matt, I'm sure, I mean, you've literally watched this scene probably dozens, if not 100 times. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What stands out to you the most? Where does your mind go first when you watch this scene?
My mind goes to the leaderboard, like right away. I've been in companies that have done that daily, send out leader lists, leaderboards, and you do not want to be the bottom one or two guys on that board because good chance you're not making it to the next week.
Yeah.
And then the aggressiveness of the sales guy coming in from corporate or the sales manager, whatever his position is. I mean, those things stand out to me the most. And the guys in the sales meeting just barking about their leads and how bad they are and all the excuses they have because they're underperforming, right? Mm-hmm. So you could come up with a million excuses if you're underperforming, and they have them all.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things in this scene you can take away.
And that's what I love about sales. It's really simple. You either have results or you have stories.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's it. You either got excuses or you got sales.
Right.
It was interesting. I was having a conversation with one of our clients, and my recommendation was to make it really clear about the goals that people have on a, basically monthly. You can break it down to weekly. You can break it down to 22 selling days this month.
Right.
And they said, in our culture, we don't feel it's right to publish how everyone is doing either according to their goals or vis-a-vis the other people there. They thought there was something about their culture that said, hey, it's too aggressive. It's not nice to do. And I certainly have my thoughts, and I shared them with them. And I said, hey, we can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
What would your approach be to someone who says, Matt, this whole idea of just publishing, whether you got 4 salespeople or you got 100, of publishing sales performance data to see where people rank, I don't think it's good for us. How would you maybe challenge them to think a little bit differently?
Well, I think you know me well enough to know my personality. I think it's a great motivator.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're sitting on the bottom of the list and you're being looked at by everybody in your company, I think it's a great motivational tool. I mean, we live in a world now where everybody gets an award, everybody gets a trophy. Our kids can come in last place and they still get a medal and they're all happy. That's not the real world. Mm-hmm. And if you end up on the bottom of the list, be better or be gone, right?
Yep.
Take a hike. See you later. Why are we paying your insurance, your salary, whatever else we're doing? That's why I don't sell or consult for people, I think. You're much more tactful at it than I am, obviously. But I think it was a great motivator for me.
Yeah.
My company doesn't do that now.
Okay.
But it was one of the best learning tools I think I've ever had. Okay. Was it miserable?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There were fights that broke out in the office. People would start swinging at each other in the office, steal calls, do whatever they could do to get off the bottom of that list. But it created this competitiveness and this drive for people because they knew if they were on the bottom, what was going to happen.
Yeah. And as I think about this environment that we're in now, right? This is being recorded September of 2021.
Yeah.
The economy's been good. In the construction industry in general, we're going on a solid decade of just every year's a little bit better than the one before. Good things are happening.
Right.
And I just observed there are a lot of salespeople that are comfortable not achieving anywhere close to their potential.
Right.
And I think what the sales leaderboard does, it deliberately and quite intentionally makes those people at the bottom feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And if you have underperforming, comfortable salespeople, I would argue that's a sales leadership problem.
Yeah. Well, we've been in this market And you could be underperforming and still hitting numbers. You could be underperforming and still be on the top of that leaderboard.
Right.
Just because you have good customers, you have key customers, guys that are still giving you orders. When rubber really hits the road is when the market goes south.
Right.
And where's your pipeline? What are you doing to keep those numbers up? I mean, that's when the grind happens. Anybody can go out in the market that's good and look like a rock star and just get by.
Right.
Right? But you've got to be putting in the work behind the scenes. That's what I tell the guys who work for me. Like, you need to keep filling that pipeline, making those connections, networking, hitting the shows, doing everything you can, because it's not always going to be like this.
Yep.
And when it turns fast.
Yep.
Right? So...
Yeah. So it's interesting is as you and I were talking about this, preparing for it, I've never been in a meeting like that, right? I worked for a company. I was on the opposite side. So I was buying, right?
Right.
And my joke is, when you're buying, everyone's selling to you. Everyone returns your phone calls. Everyone returns your emails.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks your jokes are funny. Everyone tells you your haircut looks nice. And then I started my own company and I was like, I have no idea how to sell. You're on the opposite side. So I've never been in a sales meeting like this.
I would have loved to sell you, Bradley.
If we blow it to the other side, which that's what's happening here, right? Alec Baldwin was taking like a brutal sales meeting and he's saying, I'm going to show you the worst version of this.
Yeah.
If someone's listening to this, watching this and saying, you know what, I think my sales team needs a kick in the tail. If I'm a sales manager, what advice might you have for being in those sales meetings and saying, obviously, you're not going to take it to the extreme like Alec Baldwin does and swear at people and fire everyone and say you got to win your job back.
Right.
Is there a strategic way to have a meeting where you say, I found it really motivational to get off my tail and do more without being, a total a-hole?
I kind of like the total a-hole approach. That's always worked well for me.
I've been told on a few things, like, I can see that probably worked in Chicago. And I'm like,
worked in Philly, worked in Chicago. It doesn't work so much in Dallas as it did there. But
funny how that is.
Yeah, I mean, you have to sit these guys down, I think, and you have to really look. I mean, you have to look at yourself as an organization. Make sure you're giving them the right tools to go out and sell. Make sure you're giving them the right guidance to go out and sell. If they're underperforming, you need to put it in their face that they're underperforming, not doing well. You need to motivate them somehow to get them going. It's not a Cadillac Eldorado, for God's sake. It's not a set of steak knives, for God's sake.
Right.
I mean, you just have to build the right team and you have to give them the right tools to go out there and be successful and kill it. Now, there are going to be times where you have to be the consummate a-hole and have come to Jesus meetings and start like, this is it.
It's part of the job.
Yeah, perform or go. You're going to have those times. But I think it's what you do as a company or an organization beforehand, before you get that far down the road where you have to have that meeting, making sure you're putting all the things in place and expectations in place. That's a big thing too, like expectations.
Yeah.
Letting the sales team know what you expect out of them every month, every year.
Yes.
I mean, you have to make sure you're doing those things. Don't just have Alec Baldwin pop up out of corporate when everything's already imploded and he's got to do this speech, and obviously he loved doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love doing it.
Yes.
I would love just hammering people like that and then go back on my merry way. But yeah, you've got to, it's what you've done all the way through the organization and how you bring your sales team together.
The other line that I love from that is Ed Harris, about halfway through, says, I don't have to take this abuse.
Yeah.
And Baldwin says, abuse? You think this is abuse? And he says something to the effect of, you can either take the abuse in here.
Yeah.
How are you preparing for the abuse that you're going to have on a sit? I love how they call it the meeting, right?
Sit. Yeah.
And I think, in my experience, there's something non-obvious about the need to prepare. And you can either, in a relatively safe environment, you can be challenged from a sales professional to improve your game. So when you are in front of an actual customer or prospect, you can perform. It shows you've been prepared. And yet, so many people, when we talk about, everyone hates role playing. All right, fine. We don't like role playing. Everyone hates to practice, but it's so common and it's across industries. It's certainly in our industry. Why is that? And how do you help your team prepare to be coached, to be ready so they can take the abuse when they're in front of a prospect or a customer?
I hate role playing.
No one likes role playing.
Oh my God, it's like the worst thing ever. It's not real. To me, it doesn't.
That's the whole point.
Well, it's the whole point.
Like
yeah, you
practice
set up.
isn't real.
Yeah,
I know,
you
it's
set
practice.
up. Well, yeah, but I mean, you're actually hitting the ball. You're not like selling something that's non-existent.
True.
You know, I think we spend a lot of time with our guys coming up. We put them with mentors, have them with people, have them on actual sales calls. Our guys are making 4 or 5 sales calls a day. We try and put them in situations where they can learn and be with a whole different, run the gamut of people they have to be in front of.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that's easy, the mom and pop shop. You talk about the kids, you talk about the wife, you talk about whatever.
Yeah.
To the guy that's corporate, that is crumpling up your offer and throwing it in your face, which I've had that happen too. So I mean, you try and build that. You know, there's a lot of windshield time in there. So I mean, I don't know if I'd call it role playing, but we just run through different scenarios and different things, kind of coach them up on things. That's kind of how we work it with the guys.
When you have a young person coming up, you're taking them on these sales calls, and the thing I love about your business, which I think it applies to ours as well, is it's just that repetition. If you know you're getting 4 to 5 a day, you're just getting.
It's all about repetition.
You're getting reps, right? How do you know as a sales leader, someone new, when to kind of let them fail to some degree? Do you ever let them fail in front of a customer?
Fail all the time, yeah.
Why?
It's important. They've got to learn to fail. You've got to learn to fail. If you fail and you crumble and you won't just go back out there and hit the next call, then you don't belong here. I mean, I talk to my guys. I tell my guys, like, listen, I'm going to give you all the tools, give you everything you need, train you up on the products, train you up on the costing, train you up on technical, everything else.
Yeah.
The one thing I can't do is teach you how to sell. Either you got it or you don't. I mean, I can get you kind of there.
Yeah.
But Bradley Hartman's not going to sell the same way Matt Potter sells.
Right.
The same way that whoever else sells. Either you figure it out or you don't. Mm-hmm. And we'll put them in situations with customers where we know they're not going to blow up if they do something wrong.
Right.
But we know it's going to be a challenge and they might fail. And we want them to fail. You want the guys to understand what it's like to fail and then be able to come back from that. And when they fail, we sit down and talk about it, see what happened, see how they can go back, make it right, and that's kind of how it works out.
How would you rephrase this, if you would at all? For someone listening, I want to make sure someone says, well, hey, you talked to Matt, right? Then we can't teach you how to sell.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because I don't have a sales process. And you just got to go out there, you work hard, we give you tools, and you just do what you do, and you got to find something that works for you. I firmly believe that every individual salesperson and team, yes, every interaction is going to be different. Every person's different. Not only we're selling to, but right, we want to be our authentic selves.
Right.
However, if you do not have a rough guideline that says, well, these are the steps, whether it's awareness, interest, desire, right, there has to be some sort of repetitive process. How would you reframe that?
Yeah, there's a repetitive process. What I'm speaking more to is, in my mind, when I say that I can't teach you to sell, in my mind, I cannot teach you how to sit across from a customer and build rapport. That is something you have to do. You have to be able to build rapport, build respect, trust, everything that goes into having a good customer and having a long-term customer. That's what I mean by that. You can do awareness, all those steps, yes. We'll get you there. But if you can't sit in front of a customer and build trust and build rapport, you're going to die on a vine. Mm-hmm. You should just go sell used cars on a lot and be very transactional. We're talking about customers that we've had for 20 years that trust us, know we're going to help their business grow. Those are the kind of customers we want. So
one thing we haven't talked about is kind of the obvious here. Everything kind of really is built around the leads. There are some people that we work with now who are saying in this environment right now, demand has outstripped supply. We don't have enough inventory. We're not taking any new customers. We are actively not prospecting. And I believe for my business and the gospel that I preach, that I've heard from other people, is never, ever, ever, ever stop prospecting. And I think about it like, GM of the Chicago Bears. Does a GM of any team ever say, you know what, we're good. We're good on talent. We're not going to look for anyone more. Like, how can we upgrade our roster for someone who says, well, hey, man.
They said that with Mitchell Trubisky, right? They held on to him way too long.
Yeah, no. Well, I think it's a miracle they didn't sign him up for another $100 million contract.
Exactly.
Sunk
Right.
cost fallacies.
Right.
But for folks that are like, well, hey, the reality is I don't want us prospecting right now. How might you challenge them to think differently?
We just had this conversation the other day. I think right now is the best time to be prospecting.
Why?
Because, I mean, honestly, you know, there's shortages out there. There's things that you, like you said, I know guys that are saying we are not actively prospecting. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, you should still be prospecting. You can still build relationships, grow trust. You can go in and talk about the market and talk about what's going on and be there for these guys just to shut them out. Somebody else is going to do it.
Right.
Yeah, so you got to be there doing those things so that when it does open back up, you can hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's uncomfortable. Some of your best leads, prospects, customers come out of uncomfortable situations.
Right.
I mean, I've had things blow up sideways and it's completely my fault, but I never ran away from it. And we worked through it and got through it. And they're great customers of mine to this day.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that just shut down and say, oh, you know, I don't have supply, I can't supply.
Mm-hmm.
The market's, you know, this, oh, COVID. We've got a million excuses right now.
Right.
But you've got to figure out a way to keep moving forward.
Right.
One of my customers is on the East Coast. He just basically locked down for COVID and didn't do anything. And I would call him every day or every week and just yell at him and berate him. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, I can't do anything anyways. I'm like, are you kidding me? You could do a ton of things. You can get on the phone. You can get on a Teams meeting. You're making excuses for being lazy again. Like, you're going to come out of this. Somebody's going to be 10 miles ahead of you, and you're not going to be able to make up the ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, obviously, there's a popular book called The Challenger Sale. And the idea is the best sales professionals, and I believe this, I don't believe everything that's in the book. I would challenge some of that. But you need salespeople. You need people in your life who are going to challenge you to think differently.
Yeah.
And I think it's too easy for sales professionals to become, I got to keep the peace. I want to keep everybody happy. You can't do that.
Right.
And I think we all need people in our lives to say, hey, man, you can do better. You should be doing better. I've got ideas for you. I'm going to challenge you to think differently because we all struggle with kind of the status quo bias. Well, I'm here. Let's just try to just continue. And that's not how life is.
No.
So to really challenge people and not being afraid of having a little conflict.
Oh, we do peer and customer 360 evaluations, and they are uncomfortable.
Go into that a little bit. What's
So you
involved in
have
that?
like peers, and you just send them out evaluation sheets about yourself, and you send them to your customers and have them do the evaluations on you, and it's all
Is it anonymous or no?
anonymous,
Dude, that's wonderful.
and it is brutal. But you can learn a lot from it.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a big price increase, and then I had to send it out to like 10 of my customers, and I was like, yikes.
Yeah.
I drank heavily that night.
Well,
I felt horrible about myself that night.
you'd prefer to know, right?
Yeah, you want to know.
Right.
You want to know what you're doing and what you're not doing. I mean, a guy might say, hey, you haven't given us a technical update, a briefing in 2 years. And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize you wanted it.
Right.
Like, okay, we can do that. You know, find out your shortcomings really quick.
Yeah. How often you guys do that?
Probably not often enough. I mean, we were doing them like once a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Just send them out to customers. Customers love it too because they love an opportunity to get after you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's transition to this next scene, which I think is underrated. This is the scene Ricky Roma, Al Pacino's character, makes a sale to James Link, guy that he hits up, sees him drink alone in the bar, sells him some property. Then James comes back the next day and says, we got a little problem. So let's run this clip now.
For Mr. Morton, will you tell him he's on the 1 o'clock? I'll see you. Oh, I'm sorry you came all the way in. I'm running right to the airport. You wait here and I'll... No, I can't. I'm meeting your man at the back. I wish you'd have phoned. All right, wait. Are you and Ginny going to be home tonight?
I don't know.
Rick, what?
Kenilworth.
I'm sorry.
Kenilworth.
Oh, God. Excuse me, Ray, just a minute. Jim, I told you who he is. This the senior vice president of American Express. His family owns 32... Over the past years, I have sold him, I can't tell you the dollar amount, but quite a lot of land. I promised him 5 weeks ago that I would go to the wife's birthday party in Kenilworth tonight. I have to go. You understand? I mean, it's something I have to. They treat me like a member of the family. I have to go. It's funny, you know, you get a picture of the corporation-type company man, all business. This guy, I have to tell you, we're go to his house someday. Let me see. Tomorrow. I'm in L.A. Monday. I'll take you to lunch. Where would you like to eat?
My wife's...
Hey, Rick.
I can't talk now, Jim. I'll call you tonight, all right? Sorry. I'm coming, Ray.
My wife said I have to cancel a deal.
It's a common reaction, Jim, and let me tell you what it is, and I know that that's why you married her. One of the reasons is prudence. No, it's a sizable investment. One thinks twice. It's also something women have. Reaction to the size of the investment. Monday, you invite me to dinner again. I mean, this woman can cook.
Oh, I'm sure she can.
We're gonna talk, because I want to tell you something. Something about your acreage I want you to know. I can't talk about it here, and I really shouldn't. And by law, the man next to you bought his lot at 42. He phoned to say he already had an offer.
Rick!
I'm coming, Ray. What a day. I'll call you this evening. Jim, I'm sorry I had to come all the way in. I'm sorry. Monday lunch.
We really have to go.
All right, Monday.
She called the consumer, the attorney, I don't know, the attorney general. They said we had 3 days.
Who'd she call?
The attorney, it was some consumer office.
Why'd she do that, Jim?
I don't know. No, but they said we had 3 days. They said we got 3 days, yeah.
3 days.
To, you know.
No, I don't know. Tell me.
Well, to change our minds.
Of course you have. 3 days.
Well, so we can't talk Monday.
Monday, you saw my book. Jim, I can't. You saw my book. I can't.
Yeah, but we have to before Monday to get our money back.
3 business days, they mean. 3 business days.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
I don't understand.
That's what they are. They're 3 business. Look, if we wait till Monday, my time limit runs out.
You don't count Saturday.
I'm not.
I'm saying you don't include Saturday the 3 days. It's not a business day.
I am not counting it. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so it would have elapsed.
What would have elapsed?
If we wait till Monday, it would have elapsed.
When did you write the check?
Yesterday.
What was yesterday?
Tuesday.
And when was that check cashed?
I don't know.
Well, what was the earliest that it could have been cashed?
I don't know.
Today? Today? Which in any case it was not, as there was something on the agreement I wanted to go over with you, in any case.
It wasn't cashed.
I just phoned downtown. It's on their desk.
Yeah, Rick?
One moment. One point, in fact, of which I spoke to you, of which I can't talk to you about it here. Now, let me...
Well, listen,
Now, listen to me. The statute is for your protection. I have no complaint with that. In fact, I was a member of the board when we drafted it. So quite the opposite. It says you can change your mind 3 working days from the time the deal was closed.
Levine.
Which, wait a second, which is not until the check is cashed.
What this Mr. Gus?
So, Matt, ultimately, this scene with Ricky Roma, played by Al Pacino, and James Link, is about buyer's remorse. Sold him the day before, got him to sign on the line which is dotted.
Right.
Customer comes back and says, made a mistake. We're going to have to rip that contract up. This is a really important concept that, quite frankly, we've never talked about after a couple hundred episodes, which is really buyer's remorse.
Right.
When this happens to you, kind of personally, professionally, you've probably been on both sides. How would you think about bringing somebody back, kind of pulling them back and saying, hey, I understand this is buyer's remorse. Here's how we're going to handle this from a salesperson's perspective.
I think just like the scene, you have to figure out why he's having buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't think it benefits anybody if you just say, it doesn't matter. It's done. What's done is done.
Right.
Call it a day.
And what do you mean? Either saying, all right, hey, I'll rip up the contract, or saying, no, you sign and you're screwed either way.
Yeah, I don't think any of us as sales guys want to ever rip up the contract. You know, sometimes there are guys, you know, maybe your first reaction is like, you signed a contract.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Have a nice day. I think you have to figure out why he's having this remorse. What is making him not happy about this deal? In this scene, obviously, it's the wife, right? In our business in sales, maybe our competitor came through with a late offer that he's like, oh, I didn't know that was on the table. I should have taken that. Can I get out of this?
Right.
So you have to drive and figure out what's really going on behind the scenes and figure out how you can resolve that. Whether it be maybe you give a little back. I mean, you don't want to lose a sale. You do not want to lose a contract.
Right.
And at the same time, you want to make him feel good about doing business with you and doing business going forward, right? You just don't want to lock him in and beat on him.
Yep.
So,
well, and I think what Pacino does and his character does really well is he keeps saying, what is it? Tell me again. Tell me again. And what he's doing is James Link, he feels embarrassed. He feels ashamed. He says, I'm sorry.
Right.
You know, I didn't mean to do this to you. And what Pacino does is he's like, I'm not settling for the first BS answer you give me, which is, I'm sorry, it's my wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're going to get to the thing behind the thing. I want to go to the root cause.
Right.
And for him, it's this power disparity, right? The lack of status in this guy's relationship with his wife, right? And you see Pacino say, we're going to address this, right? He says, forget the contract. Let's talk about you.
Let's talk about,
And obviously, it's cinema. Right. How often can you say, let's set the contract aside. Let's talk about your personal relationship with your wife.
Right.
That's a tough transition to make. They do in the movie. But I love that where he's like, dude, we're going to get to I don't need you to tell me. How do you navigate around that when sometimes, quite deliberately, the person doesn't want to tell you the real reason?
I think a lot of times there's an art in being silent, right?
What do you mean by that?
If you sit back, if you ask questions, like he keeps hammering them. I don't think that's ever been my style.
Yeah.
I think if you sit back and let people talk, they'll get there.
Yeah.
Like they'll tell you why they're having this remorse at some point.
Yeah.
You have to learn, and it's not comfortable. It takes time to get used to, but you have to learn when to sit back, be quiet, and let the customer tell you actually what's going on. It might take them a while to get around to it, and they might hem and haw, and it's my wife, and it's this, and it's that.
Right.
But at some point, and you got to be a good listener too, right? You're going to find those nuggets and you're going to be like, and you'll be able to come back with rhetorical questions and be like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not really your wife.
Mm-hmm.
What's really going on here?
Right.
Yeah, it's this, and that's one thing I think salespeople lack a lot of times, is being comfortable in the silence, being able to just sit back, be quiet, let the customer get to where they need to go in their time. I've had many dead spots in meetings, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's this other scene with Jack Lemmon when he closes the people, or he thinks he does, and he says, puts the contract, and he says, I want you to sign this contract now. And then he said, we just stood there in silence and stared at each other for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And I think salespeople.
But it was a bogus deal.
It was a bogus deal. But I think to your point, if you have like 4 count of legitimate silence and there's tension in the room, that 4 seconds for salespeople will feel like a minute and a half. It'll feel like
it'll feel like an eternity.
Right. And what do we want to do? We want to fill that void.
Right.
And
that's not what you should do.
You want to embrace that.
Right.
Let that do the work, because they're probably feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
But if you just jump in there and run your mouth, because that's what salespeople do,
right,
you're losing an opportunity there. But I think this is part of this is human nature. That's why it's hard.
Yeah.
People have to be consistently told, just let that sit. And my guess is when you're doing a lot of these calls with young salespeople, you're getting a lot of those reps to be like right there. Hey, at that, 20 minutes through, just sit back, just shut up, let them answer. And even if they're struggling, let them answer, let them speak.
Let them struggle.
Yeah.
Because they're going 100 miles an hour in their head.
Right.
They're trying to figure out what they're trying to say to you. Let them just get it out, try and get everything on the table so you know the whole picture.
Yeah.
And you know how to drive the sale home. I mean, the guy's got remorse. Everybody's got remorse. But I've bought stuff that I have remorse about.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have bought things from me that they have remorse about. I mean, we've had meetings, like I said before, where competitors have gone in and undercut me after we already signed the deal.
Right.
And the guy's like, listen, my owner, my president, I can't, he wants me to do this. And well, okay, tell me more about how we can make this right.
Yeah.
Like, we've already done the deal. But if I need to do something to move the needle, to make you look better, to make your owner happy, and like say, we're all relationship sales, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just sit back, be quiet, and listen to what they have to say.
Well, this kind of goes to a little bit of customer service, but also in your example there, sometimes as salespeople, we take it upon ourselves to feel like, all right, I gotta be the hero. I gotta solve this. I gotta figure out the solution, and I don't know all the information. And sometimes I'll say, don't be so hard on yourself.
Right.
They might already have in their mind the solution here. And hey, we signed the deal. We did that yesterday, Matt. You're right. We got another offer. It's 6% lower. You're putting me in a tight spot. Instead of saying, all right, let me see what I can do. Now we're haggling over price. I'll say is, hey, what would have to be true for you guys to feel comfortable understanding you signed a contract yesterday with us,
Right.
feel good moving forward that you and I are working together.
Yeah.
And they might say, tell you what, we feel bad about this. Maybe it's 2%. All right, well, now that's different, right? Now at least they're presenting a potential solution that you can then kind of riff off of.
Right.
It got me thinking when he keeps going back, he says, hey, tell me again. And then he keeps going. You have a story that I thought was really powerful where he said, customer or prospect says, hey, tell me this again. And you were like, no.
Yeah. No.
So walk us through that story because I think that was powerful.
Yeah. So we had a customer I've been trying to sell for probably about 4 years. And it's a really good guy, great relationship, got along. His current supplier has never done him wrong, which, hey, I never negative sell. If the guy,
right,
good competition, taking care of you, everything's great, that's fine. So we sat down and we had lunch, and he said, we're about to go play golf. And he says to me, tell me again why I should go to you guys. And I was like, I'm not doing this again. Like, I've been in every other month telling you why you should come with us.
Yeah.
And we had like 4 people at the table. And I'm like, I'm not doing it again. And he's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, we're not going through this again. Like, you know every reason why you should be with us.
Yeah.
Now, if you choose to stay with your current supplier because you like them, I have no beef with that. I was like, I will come back here. We will play golf. We will drink beers. We'll have a good time. And we went out and played golf that day. We're having a couple beers. And I looked at him and I'm like, listen, I'm bored. Golf is a boring sport. I love golf, but it's boring. Anybody who knows me knows that I love to gamble. So I'm like, let's go $5 a hole and get after this. And he's like, I'm all in. Let's go. Okay. I'm like, all right. So we started playing. We're kind of going back and forth even. We get to like the 16th hole and he's like, so when should I make the switch? I was like, I'm going to be very honest with you. I would love you to switch right now. Market is tight. You do not want to screw up your supply chain. Take care of yourself.
Yep.
And when you're ready to go, we'll go. We'll be there for you. And probably about a month ago, he started flipping over.
And just curious, what was the time gap between that conversation and when he called back and says, hey, I'm ready?
It's about 3 months.
Okay.
About 3 months. I mean, steel market's super tight.
Yeah.
Can't get supply.
Yeah.
To your point, other suppliers are not taking on new customers in that market. So I wanted to make sure he was taken care of. And I was like, I could do the thing here and say, do it now.
Right.
And then you're going to hate me 3 months from now.
Yes.
You got to do it when it's right for you, and then we'll flip it.
Well,
and he started to do that.
Well, and I think that's, number one, I think there's power in saying, you and I both know this thing. But I think a lot of salespeople are like, all right. I go back into sales. Let me break down back in the napkin math. Let me tell you all the features and benefits, right?
Yeah.
He said, no, you know everything you need to know.
Right.
That's not the thing, right?
Yeah.
There's something else, and it's obvious. That's fine, right? You got a good relationship.
Yeah. Oh, he's built a great company with this competitor of mine.
Yeah.
He's built a great company, does very well. It's not an easy decision for him.
Right.
And I'm not going to hard sell him into that decision. And I'm not going to blow my voice out telling him all the time, like, why he should come with us. Either you want to come with us because you see the benefit and the value and the innovation and everything we bring to you,
right?
Or you don't. And if you don't, that's fine. But I'll be here. That's my whole point. If his current supplier falls, I just want him to know I'm going to be there. Yeah, I said I'm going to play golf and drink beers with you.
Yeah.
But I'll be there. And he's a good friend, you know, so it works out. You don't have to be on guys all the time.
Right.
You have to be patient. You have to realize that it takes time. Well, I mean, there's a certain dance within a sales process, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to figure it out.
Well, when we're talking about pipeline and the need for prospecting, you said you were working on this for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this means, all right, I'm going to close deals in 2025 that I might initiate or advance today.
Yeah.
But I also think it's powerful when you say, I have the opportunity. You are asking me when should I close?
Right.
And you said, Not now, not today, right? That takes some constraint. And you think about ABC always be closing.
Yeah.
Well, you deliberately didn't close, but it was for a higher purpose. And my guess is he left. That gave him reassurance that he's not, obviously this is good for you. Concern is it good for me? And right, that's where this buyer's remorse comes from is I think this is good for you and it's not good for me. So I think there's power in that and thinking through, what would I say today if he's ready to close? I'm prepared to say, let me explain what's happening in the market. Let me tell you when you should.
He knew, yeah. I think it was a very, looking back on it, I think it was kind of a leading question.
Yeah.
I mean, he was going to see if I was going to be honest or if I was just going to be like, hey, go.
Today.
Yeah, today. Let's do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, people are way smarter than you think they are. Sales guys, we're huge egos. We think we're the smartest guy in the room.
That's true.
These guys, they'll test you. And all I can do is be as honest as I can be. And I think people see that and appreciate that. Some of the worst sales I've ever had are sales that I've walked in and the guy hands me a PO.
Right.
Worst. Best sales, 4 years, 2 years. Guys that I've had to work hard for, build, like show value to, those are the guys. Guys that you sell when you walk in, credit problems, screaming at you every day.
Right.
Just
beating up on price.
Dogged. Yeah.
If you're gonna win a deal for $1, you're probably gonna lose that deal for $1 sooner or later. And then
for
the question
50
is,
cents.
those are trade-offs you're making in your time. And sometimes it feels good, right? Just to walk in and be like, this is easy. Walk in, got a deal. If it's easy, something probably went wrong, right? All right. Let's get one more scene in here. This one's with Shelley the Machine Levine, who obviously this is an all-star cast, but you could argue his character for Jack Lemmon is really the central character. Let's dig into that for a minute.
Is this with a sales promotion?
It isn't. It's the way it is.
You're gonna fire the bottom men on the list?
That's the way it is, and I don't make the rules. The rules come from downtown.
I've got a little bit of a problem here, John.
I'm closing up the office.
Well, come across the street, have a drink with me.
I gotta get home.
Hey, do me the courtesy, huh? 5 minutes? Just 5 minutes.
I am trying to get home for 2 hours. I gotta go
minutes?
home, grab 1 hour with my kids, come back here, see if any of you close the
how about 1
contract,
minute,
take the
huh?
contract to the bank.
How about 1 minute? Huh?
What is it?
I can't close these leads.
Then move on.
Don't jump. Hey, don't jump out of your manager bag a second. Huh? It's just two guys talking, am I right? We're just talking. You got the new leads. If you were giving that, just hold on.
The Glengarry leads, Mitch and Murray told me are to be assigned only to closers.
Yeah, hold on a second. If you give me the good leads...
Yeah, Shelley, you blew the last good one.
Oh, no. Yeah, hold on a minute, will you, please? I did not blow them. One kicked out. One I closed.
You didn't close it.
Would you listen to me, please? I closed that. His ex. John, his ex. I didn't even know he was married. The judge invalidated it.
Shelley.
What was that, John, huh? Bad luck. That's all it was. I pray in your life you never find that it runs in streaks. Oh, boy, that's what it's doing. That's all it does. Streaks. I pray that it misses you, and that's all I have to say. Got to eat. Will you listen? Look at the sheets. Look at the sheets. 1987, 88, 89. 6 months in 89. Who's on top?
Roma.
Under him.
Moss.
Oh, bull, John. April to September, it's me. It's no Moss. Due respect, he's an order taker. Oh, talk. Woo, talk's a good game, but don't look on the board. It's me.
Not lately, it isn't.
All right, Shelley the Machine Levine. This movie really revolves around him and his mindset. He's got personal issues, right? His daughter's in the hospital. He's in a bad streak right now. He's gone cold. How do you think about streaks in general in sales? And when you see someone on your team who is struggling, who's in a bad streak or is in a rut, how do you help that individual kind of reframe this to think about it in a more proactive, positive light?
Well, yeah, streaks are great. You could ride the wave. You think it's never going to end, and then it ends. It's going back to, and this is what we talk to our sales guys about, it's the work you put in while you're on those streaks. It's very easy, again, to get complacent and be like, oh, everything's fine. But are you working with your current customers, talking about who you should be going? Customers will tell you all the time who you should be talking to, either their competitors or people that they work with that you should be trying to sell. Basic networking. If you're on that streak and you're going really well and you have good relationships, you should be able to work those relationships to prospect, to get more leads, to do more things so that when you do hit a cold spell, you have things in the pipeline that you're still working on. And trust me, when the phone stops ringing, I lose my mind. Like, it happens.
Yeah.
There's times where you're just not getting called or you're not doing things, but you just have to keep picking up the phone, keep going to see people, keep working those lanes or those leads to try and keep it going. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just not going to move it forward.
You know, what comes to mind is one of my favorite phrases that you love.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this just a little bit. You've called me out on that multiple times. I've stopped using it. I was like, I thought it was a good phrase. You make fun of me.
I think we were fighting about 10U baseball at the time.
That sounds right.
You wanted to unpack it.
Overly aggressive, overly competitive 10U baseball in Texas.
Yeah.
Let's unpack. So we'll often talk about referrals. Referrals are great. Fine.
Referrals.
I also think referrals are for amateurs. You want an introduction.
Yeah.
And what I want is, hey, you're a customer of mine. And I'm saying, hey, who do you know that might benefit from the way that I'm helping you?
Right.
And sometimes you will see salespeople like, oh, I'm not sure I can say that. I'm like, if you can't say it to someone who knows, likes, and trusts you, who can you ask for, right?
Well, yeah. That's
So what might you say to a customer to like, hey, we're working together. Who else should I be talking to? How do you build that from your existing customer base?
It's pretty much just that. And that's kind of what I was talking about. If you're on a run and you've got good customers and your customers are buying from you,
right,
and you've got good relationships, why couldn't you sit across from a guy and say, the guy's probably been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years, maybe not in that same position,
right?
Maybe in competitor. Why couldn't you just say, hey, who else should I be calling on? Who in the area should I be going after? I'm here. I'm in Louisiana. Who else in Louisiana while I'm here should I go by and stop and see?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, oh, go see Mark down at so-and-so. Well, can you give him a shout real quick? Just tell him I'm coming.
Yeah.
Like, tell him what's up. I made a call in Colorado. It was just a cold call. And it was going horribly bad.
And when you say cold call, what do you mean by cold call? Literally, you know a guy?
I knew a name.
And a number?
I knew an address. And this was 6 months ago.
Okay.
6 months ago. And we walk in and this guy was like, just waylaying me.
Okay.
And he just did not want me there.
Yeah.
He was the owner too. I just got to the owner. So I was just talking to him and he's like, what are you doing here? Who are you with? How long you been in this industry? What do you know? And I'm like sitting there and I'm just like, just bobbing and weaving, talking, doing my thing. And his cell phone starts ringing.
Yeah.
And it was my mentor, Roger.
Okay.
And I'm like, pick that cell phone up. And he's like, when we're talking, I'm like, no, answer that call and tell him who you are standing here with. And he's like, all right, whatever. So he picks it up. He's like, hey, I'm sitting here with Matt Potter. And all of a sudden his whole demeanor like changed and he hung up the phone.
Was that just coincidence?
A total coincidence. But it's an introduction, right?
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
Right.
Somebody happened to make the call. All the stars aligned.
Yeah.
It worked out great. And, I'm still working this guy. We're still working this guy, our company. But, yeah, there's no reason why you can't say, like, give me an introduction. Like, I've been in this industry for 30 years. I like to think I know everybody. I do not know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that can get me introductions to other people that are going to help me out, help me grow sales that I need to utilize. There's people on my team.
Right.
There's customers. There's purchasing people. I mean, you just have to utilize every tool you have to be successful.
Yeah. Well, we talk about it all the times. Put up a slide and says AFWYW. Ask for what you want.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and maybe you can kind of maybe give a little context to this, someone would say, well, it might be awkward because if you're my customer, I want that customer believing that all I do is think about him. And now I'm basically, I'm at the date with a girl and then I'm asking about some other girl.
Yeah.
And on one hand, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think it's crazy, right? And you say, hey, man, I'm looking to grow my business. Who else do you know? And worst case, he's like, oh. Worst case, you say, I don't know. Let me think about it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. But
Well, I think, too, things guys don't do enough or sales guys don't do enough is build the relationship side. If you're just going into the office and you're just sitting in this guy's office and that's all you do, that's not going to work. Like, I do some of my best selling on Friday nights, Saturdays, Sundays. You have to have a personal relationship, talking to people, going out with people, entertaining people. My kids think I'm a professional entertainer, for crying out loud, you know.
So do I. They're onto something.
There's something about sitting at a dinner with a person or sitting on a golf course with a person, and you've got like your foot up on a golf cart and you're like, hey, who else should I be calling? Like, things are slowing down. I need some help. Everybody wants to help everybody. They want to see people be successful. They want to see you do well. If they like you, if they don't like you, they might throw you some trash.
Yeah.
But if you're just going into a guy's office and just like sitting down with him 30 minutes every month and just trying to get that PO,
right,
and that's all he's worth, then forget it. You're not gonna be successful, because my guy's gonna tell me to go call on him, and I'm gonna take him from you.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah. Well, I
it's
think
a little bit of ego there, but it's true. I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Well, I think you said something powerful there too, which is, I need some help. Go to your existing customers, and oftentimes when you go to somebody like, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
The initial thought is, depending on the relationship, they might be like, hey, I'll do anything, I want to help you. Or they might be like, oh gosh. And then you're like, hey, who else should I call? And you're like, oh, it's a small ask.
Yeah.
And I'll often say is, hey, referrals are for amateurs. And I say that, number one, people don't nearly ask for enough referrals. But if someone says, oh yeah, dude, I got my buddy Jimmy, you should call. And be like, okay, what's Jimmy? And I would say, don't let him just give you Jimmy's name and number. Say, hey, dude, we're here. Can I be even more annoying?
Yeah.
Can we just call Jimmy now?
Right.
And I will have them do that. We'll pick up the phone. He's like, hey, I'm here with Hartman. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, have fun with it. Yeah. Take a load off. He's going to call. It's probably going to go to voicemail. Right. But now you have a very direct in, as opposed to, right, you got a name, you got a number. Yeah, a referral's better than nothing, but an introduction changes the game.
For sure. And these leads in this movie, garbage. Who works off leads like that? I mean, they're on 3x5 cards, pasted to the, I mean, that's just garbage. They did that to me when I first started in sales. They gave me a Excel spreadsheet, quote unquote leads. It was the trash that nobody could sell. And I was like, 3 months in, I'm like, this is never going to work. So back in the day, I went to Manufacturing Gods, Thomas Net,
right,
and other sales guys, and started growing my business, you know.
Well, and I think with this idea with leads is the best salespeople aren't sitting back waiting for leads.
Right.
They're going out, they're talking to people, they're creating them, they're creating opportunities, and they're advancing them, right? Don't rely on somebody else to do it. Otherwise, I'd say it's more account management than it is selling. Matt, let's bring this bad boy home here. For folks that have not watched the movie, what are the core takeaways that you would say is, hey, we've showed you some clips. You watch this movie, obviously, what movies often do is they'll take some very fundamental principles or some things from real life, and they will take them to the extreme to kind of show the contrast there.
Yeah.
And that's where I've had a lot of people be like, dude, it's just totally unrealistic. Actually, Mark, who didn't want to do it, he's like, it's totally unrealistic. Like, well, yeah, so is Lord of the Rings. Doesn't mean you shouldn't watch a movie. But I think there are selling principles here. As you think about fundamentals of sales, what stands out to you? What might be a takeaway that reinforces it from watching Glengarry Glen Ross?
A takeaway, do not try and sell at 7 o'clock at night, for crying out loud.
Number
what
one,
are you doing with your life? Like we were just talking about, do not rely on these leads and people to come to you. Go out and make your own destiny.
Yeah.
Right? Don't be Jack Lemmon saying, I need the leads, I need the leads, I need the leads. And at one point in the movie, he gives him a lead. He thinks it's great. And he basically just gave him a sucker lead.
Yes.
So he felt a little better about himself.
Right.
And he's totally going into irrelevance, right? We talked about that too before on the side maybe. But you've always got to be creating your own destiny. You always got to be pushing yourself. I mean, yes, you work for a company, you work for this organization, but if you don't have the drive to go out there and create and get your own leads and get your own customers, you're going to be dead in the water. You're not going to be successful. Yeah. And I think that's what this movie is. I mean, you could sit back and make a million excuses like Ed Harris makes and Jack Lemmon making this movie. You can make a million excuses all day long and tell everybody how horrible it is and they're not doing anything for you. You have to be an entrepreneur and go out and do it yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's lost where people watch a movie, I'll recommend it to a young sales pro, and then I'll talk to him after. I said, this whole thing's about leads. Where are the leads? The good leads, the Glengarry leads and the bad leads. The one sale that successfully takes place, the legitimate sale that takes place, happens between who? The guy at the bar and Ricky Roma. Pacino sits down, and there's a guy, and what does he do?
Yeah.
Starts selling, right? He created an opportunity. That guy was not on a card, you know?
Yeah, like Ricky Roma was not in the sales meeting. He did not go to the sales meeting.
Right.
He went and sold somebody and took care of it. Yep. And if you look at the list, Ricky Roma's top of the list.
Yes.
So as an egomaniac sales guy, those are the guys that are like, I don't have to go to that meeting.
Right.
I'll just go make a sale.
Yeah.
And then I'll show up.
That could be another episode.
Yeah, another episode, yep.
Sales pros who don't show up at sales meetings because they're too busy selling to do other things. There's a thin line there. But I think to your point, too, about your Colorado story, coincidences happen all the time.
Yeah.
Sales is about results. Results come from action. Putting yourself out there. You went to a meeting, you got a name, you showed up, you talked to the owner, you bobbing and weaving, try not to get punched in the face.
Right.
And then a coincidence happens. Those things don't happen if you stay in your car, you don't visit, or you drive by and you're like, it's 4:00. I'll go in and catch the pregame for the football game. Default to making something happen. Something good happens when you put forth that effort just time and time again.
Yeah.
And it's that, we was talking about that, the law of averages and the law of big numbers. You have enough of those. You talk to enough owners. You make enough cold call visits where you don't know all the information. You have these conversations over time, right? The law of averages, sooner or later, you're just going to have more hits, right? You get more at bats. And that's something that I always take away from this movie is.
Yeah, if you're sitting there about the leads in the office.
Right.
What are you doing?
Right. Get out of the office.
Get out of the office and make something happen.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, I know you're busy. I always learn a lot from you. I appreciate you making time for this. A lot of fun. If you have not watched Glengarry Glen Ross, I know you got annoyed. I got the script printed out. I actually got the play. It's a small book. I'd recommend it. Just reading the play version, although interesting.
We are.
Or maybe not.
We are two different people.
We are. That's okay. That's okay.
He prints out the whole script, reads everything. I come in and say, I started to watch the movie.
That's right. Hey, a couple different ways to get to the same end.
Yeah, it's all good.
But what's interesting in the play, written by David Mamet, the play does not have that ABC thing. That doesn't exist. So that happens prior. So the play opens and there's no Alec Baldwin character.
They're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of deducing that there was some BS meeting.
Yeah.
And then he wrote that in for the movie. And you're like, dude, talk about absolute gold. So anyway, appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right, then. How did that go? I didn't oversell it, did I? All right, if you haven't seen it, go out, watch Glengarry Glen Ross now. You will thank me later for that. And thank you to Matt Potter. He is always such a great hang, and I always learn a lot from him. Hopefully you enjoyed this conversation. Now, our goal here is to make this the best podcast you listen to. So if you have ideas for future shows, hell, if you have other sales movies you want us to dig into, let me know. Or if you're struggling with other issues with customers or any sales issues with your team and your own sales culture, feel free to email me directly at bradley@behindyourbacksales.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn and you can connect with us on Instagram at BehindYourBackCEO. Now, in the intro, I mentioned this 18-month outside sales rep development program that we are putting together. We are putting together our first cohort. It is early, but things are moving fast. And this has been on my mind for years, and we are now going to execute that. So if you have inside sales professionals, or maybe people in purchasing, or even folks that are in the yard that you believe have a future in sales, and you want to make an investment in them to work with us online and off over an 18-month program to get them ready for the rigors and the opportunity in outside sales in the lumber and building material business, this could be for you. So feel free to reach out to me directly. Again, Bradley@BehindYourBackSales.com. So that's all we've got. Again, thank you for listening. I appreciate you, my friend. We're going to close out like we always do with our sales leadership mantra. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first.